There was a time in 2008 that the Phillies were on top of the world, winning the World Series, bringing the parade to Philadelphia. They made the playoffs in 2009, 2010, and in 2011. But the next decade was about to be hell for the Phillies, as they were not going to make the playoffs for another 10 years. But luckily for Philadelphia, they would hit on draft picks in the future. The 2014 MLB draft might have been the most important draft in quite a while for Philadelphia. In the very first round, they took a pitcher by the name of Aaron Nola. Coming out of college, Nola was expected to be a future arm in the Phillies rotation. But what is insane is what they were able to find in the fifth round, a college first baseman by the name of Rhys Hoskins. The Phillies were still not good for quite a few more years, but they at least had talent now. Nola was called up in 2015, and Hoskins was called up in 2017. Nola would establish himself as a premier rotation arm after a breakout in 2017. Meanwhile, for Rhys Hoskins, it took him 3 games to get his very first hit. But one series after getting his first hit is when Hoskins would begin shaking headlines all across this league. The Phillies went on a road trip to San Diego, and Rhys hit his very first home run. But not just that, he also managed to hit another home run, and it went 400 feet. The Phillies ultimately sucked in 2017, but having a young first baseman made it at least worthwhile. By Hoskins' 34th MLB game, he had already hit 18 home runs, the most home runs ever in that span by any player. Fans made sure to watch every Rhys Hoskins at-bat at all times, because you never knew if he was going to have an at-bat like this one, where bases were loaded and he fought off 10 pitches before hitting a line drive for a hit. Or how about September 12th against the Marlins, where Rhys hit 2 home runs, leading them to victory in the 15th inning. His final stat line was absolutely crazy. 18 homers, 259 average, and a 1,000 OPS and 170 at-bats. By the end of the season, Rhys Hoskins was considered the face of the franchise. He had the best-selling jersey on the Phillies in 17, and 1 year later, they were supposed to be competitive after having a very competitive offseason. By August of 2018, they were playing playoff baseball with a 59-48 record. As for the face of the franchise, he was having a great season as well. Up until this point, he had a 263 average, 21 homers, and an 866 OPS. But the Phillies would overall slump to end the season with a 21-34 record, missing out on the postseason. Over the next 3 years, Philadelphia would lose, and lose even more. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, Rhys hit for an 800 OPS. He would deliver, but the front office could not deliver. They were unable to build a sustainable winner. But after 2021, the Phillies would finally begin to get serious, as they signed Kyle Schwarber to a big deal and outfielder Nick Castellanos. Rhys went on to have a great 2022 with a complete team around him, hitting 30 home runs and accumulating a 794 OPS. This was the second time in his career that he would hit 30 homers. It was also the most hits that he had ever put up in a year, with 145. As for the entire lineup, he led the entire team in doubles with 33. He also managed to walk 72 times, and he was also ranked 3rd in RBIs with 79. But that's not to say that he didn't have one crucial error, because he certainly had awful defense, accumulating a total of 12 errors, and he even led all first basemen in errors in that season. On the bright side, the 2022 Phillies were a playoff team for the first time in 10 years. They were in a very competitive division, competing with the Braves and the Mets. The Phillies ended up placing in 3rd place, winning 87 games, and appearing in the wildcard round. Most people did not expect Philadelphia to really last long at all. They expected them to get bounced. And in the first 2 wildcard games, Rhys did not record a single hit. But luckily, the offense did just fine in Game 1, scoring 6 runs, and the pitching was able to lead them to victory in Game 2. In the next round, they would be facing a division rival in the Atlanta Braves. Game 1 was a dogfight, going back and forth between Atlanta and Philly. Ultimately, the Phillies would win Game 1 with a score of 7-6, but Game 2 would not go like that for the Phillies. They would record 3 hits in Game 2, just a complete failure from the entire offense. But in Game 3, the offense exploded. And the bottom of the third, Bryson Stott hit a double to advance Brandon Marsh home. The Braves then intentionally walked Kyle Schwarber, allowing Rhys Hoskins to have a chance, and here is what happened.
And it'll bring up Rhys Hoskins. Swung on, did it, crushed, and the Phillies are going to lead it 4-0. A 3-run home run for Rhys Hoskins.
Rhys Hoskins had arguably the coolest home run celebration in MLB history with the bat spike. The Phillies won this game to take the lead in the series. But Game 4 would ultimately be the best game of this series, from an inside-the-park home run to Hoskins hitting 3 baseballs. Again, Philadelphia won to advance to the next round. In the NLCS, they would be competing with the 89-win Padres. The Phillies won Game 1, but Rhys had little to no impact in Game 2 or Game 3. On a consistent basis, he just did not have it in this postseason. But one thing that he did have was badass moments. Game 4 of the Padres-Phillies series, Phillies fans thought that it might be over in the very first inning. The Padres went out and they scored 4 runs. But then, Rhys Hoskins struck in the first inning, hitting a 2-run home run to make it 4-2, keeping Philadelphia in the game. Later on in the 4th inning, it was 6-4 and what felt like a shootout. But the Phillies were losing, and Rhys Hoskins came up to bat and pulled off this magic.
And his second of the night.
Wow. Get him hot. Let's go, Mercy.
After winning that game, Philadelphia was 1 game away from a World Series. It would be their first appearance since 2009. And then the 3rd inning of Game 5, Rhys Hoskins did it again with a 2-run bomb to put the Phillies in front. They later won this game 4-3. Rhys Hoskins may have been inconsistent, but he showed the world how important of a player that he truly was to Philadelphia. But unfortunately, it would only go downhill from here. After heading into a series with a very hot Astros team, the Phillies' historical ride would come to an end. Rhys Hoskins recorded only 3 hits in 6 games during that series. His contract had 1 year left with Philadelphia, and it was likely going to be his last. But before even being able to step into the batter's box in the regular season, something horrific happened. Rhys Hoskins tore his ACL, and his 2023 farewell tour would not happen. And unfortunately for Rhys Hoskins, as the year went on, we began to see a new, permanent solution at first base. Superstar Bryce Harper would become a first baseman. This was now going to be confirming that Hoskins would not be back with the Phillies. He went from being the franchise's best player to a magical World Series ride to now being done in Philadelphia. A new opportunity awaits for Rhys Hoskins, and it will be in Milwaukee in 2024.